Hi everyone, welcome to The Grind. We are wrapping up our series on Kingdom Visions, and Pastor Ed was sharing the message of heaven being a meeting place and access point, and we're just going to dive into this this topic, about that. And I think it's and also like basically what it looks like to be living out the kingdom of heaven. What does it look like on earth? So I don't know, good stuff. So I just want to break the ice first with a really good question. I just think it's a really good question. What would you consider heaven on earth?
Having good questions.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
No, in all seriousness, the Swiss Alps during the winter.
Oh. I've not had the opportunity. I've only had it. I only was up there in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, summer.
Yeah.
You could have said like when I see Mount Fuji.
Except I didn't. I saw the base of Mount Fuji. Yeah.
I think for me something similar, like when I'm in bliss, I think in moments of where like I am in awe of God's creation. So like for me it's like in the ocean. I love the ocean.
Yeah.
Like snorkeling, diving.
Yeah.
That's
my
my
second
happy
one
place.
is Ocean Park Aquarium as well.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
simply the ocean life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was also gonna say Thailand One Beach in Saikong. That's like, I would say heaven on earth because the sand is so perfect, the sea is so clear, and there's just not that many people. And there's no reception, so it is, clear. It's good.
No
Like-
reception.
Yeah. I feel a lot of emphasis on that.
No one to hunt me down. But then also, heaven on earth for me is also like a nice pair of noise canceling headphones where I'm listening to some music. That also is like bliss for me too.
Wow.
Yep. I was surprised that wasn't the answer for the sound guy, but anyways, we move on. But yeah, we want to talk about a little bit about heaven on earth. And so, actually the Garden of Eden is something that Pastor Ed talked about, is how that is the initial access point between heaven and earth. But unfortunately, sin led to like the widening gap between God and man, heaven and earth. And so, in light of the fall and the resulting separation from God, like how can we overcome feelings of distance from Him in our daily lives? Because that's the whole idea with the whole Garden of Eden's like it was perfect. Man and God, coexisted, like walked in God's presence. Like Adam was there, right? And then sin happens, like okay, bye. They left Eden, and so it just became just impossible. Yeah. So, anyways, let's talk about that. How have we tried to overcome feelings of distance from Him in our daily lives?
I think I brought up this metaphor a few times on the grind, right? About like, God's umbrella. If like being stressed out and worn out is like the rain, God has an umbrella and God says, hey, I'm going to go left. But then you're like, I'm going to go right. And see, it's not God distancing Himself from you. It's we're distancing ourselves from God. We're the ones doing it. And so I always say like, oh, then we have to like pursue Him, go back to chasing Him. But then I had a conversation with one of my river youths, and he brought up, and I mentioned this analogy, and he brought up a good point that when you say, it sounds like that when you say you're pursuing and you're chasing God, it sounds like you don't have it. So he kind of suggested a better word, which is recentering. Which I was like, okay, yeah, actually, no, I think that is a better way of doing it. I remember reading this book, and it just talked about this perspective about fact versus truth. Fact is basically what we conclude from the circumstances that we see, versus truth, which is what's really going on behind the scenes. And so I think the fact is that we tend to like see that, oh, I don't feel God, therefore we're far from God. But then the truth is that actually God's always there just waiting for us. And it's just us who need to be like, we didn't lose God, but we need to like recenter ourselves in Him. Yeah.
Wow. That is a wise kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just remembered when you use the GPS, if you start the journey, it will start guiding you. And if you deliberately scroll away, the button that says back to the root is recenter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like back in the day, back in the biblical times, there was the whole Tower of Babel, right? Where they tried to, I guess build the tallest tower to kind of just like, reach heaven, right? And God was like, nah, boop, But have you ever found yourself, in a mode of striving to close that distance between you and God?
Yes. I would listen to a lot of worship music, and then read the Bible and be reminded of his promises, and then also watch other like explanatory videos like Bible Project.
Yeah.
And I want to know more about God's character and your previous work and what you're about to do to overcome that.
Right. But has it ever like clicked your mind? It's like, hey, actually, I'm now in a place of, instead of like, you know, pursuing God because I desire, but more of like, oh, I got it. I have to close the gap. So instead of like moving from a have to like I want to.
Is this like a healthy or unhealthy approach? Like,
Yeah, because like, you know, because obviously the Tower of Babel, that was not a healthy approach, right?
Yeah.
And like, let's be real, there have been moments where we try to close the gap between us and God through a very unhealthy approach. We think it's healthy, like, oh yeah, I'm reading the Bible, da da da. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong, but like it becomes like a forced to, like, I'm doing this because, oh, this must be the way to get close to God, right?
Yeah.
And so we just try to fill it up. We say like, oh, because we've read this many chapters, therefore we're close to God.
Yeah.
We've listened to this many songs. We spent this much time, therefore. So like then is, you know, have we found ourselves ever in an unhealthy place of, you know, striving to hear from God? Because I know I have, especially like, you know, being in, when you're trying to like crank out messages every single week for the youth, and it's like, okay, I got to read the Bible. If I don't read the Bible, I ain't got no message for the youth to share to them. And then it becomes like a very unhealthy, like, I'm just reading the Bible because it's like, I need something, right? So then it just becomes like,
Yeah. I think not this is not something I personally can relate to, but it's something I've heard from another missionary, how they said that, you know, some people kind of throw themselves into missions because they treat it like kind of what you're saying, they treat it like a transaction. They're like, hey, God, this is me doing something, so I really hope you're gonna respond to me now.
Yeah.
You know, like I did A, therefore I should expect B to happen.
yeah. I mean, have we ever had that thought as a church staff? Like, hey, God, I work for you, so therefore, please, like, hear me out and make things happen.
Not really, but
Good.
That was a test.
Keith is the model, guys.
oh, no, that's the problem, because I haven't negotiated with God because I work in the church,
Yeah.
but I've had the mindset of being the model. That was my negotiation.
Oh, okay.
I always strive to like obey the commandments, but it was more like I needed to
Oh, right.
rather than I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then as I learn more, it starts to feel like a
Yeah. I think it's definitely something that we just need to check ourselves as well from time to time is, hey, I need to take a pause here. Am I doing this because I want to? Or is it, so again, duty versus devotion. I think I mentioned this before. So is this a duty, or am I devoted to the Lord? And I think it's definitely very different relationships, you know, operating out of duty versus
Do you remember
devotion.
the news interview? They interviewed a construction worker, I think, and they asked him why do you go to work in a typhoon or black rain? What was it? Is it because of love or duty?
Oh, I'm guessing he said duty.
Yeah, no, he said it's because I'm poor.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like,
Yeah.
you have to score a lot of money if you work on those circumstances, risking your life. All right, so yeah, even though there was that, you know, that separation, you know, after, you know, Adam sinned and everything, and yes, people are trying to, like, you know, become get closer to God and so on, but then there were options, right? That I guess there were options where there was a place where heaven and earth overlapped. Like, for example, the temple, that was a place where people could experience God's presence. That was an intersection of heaven and earth right there, but there was still restrictions because you needed like a sacrifice before you could enter the Holy of Holies. It's not like, oh, let me walk in right now and just chill. Oh, nope, you needed a sacrifice. So then obviously, Jesus became the ultimate and perfect sacrifice, and now we can freely enter the presence of God. So where is our personal meeting place with God? If someone were to ask you.
I would say anywhere. Because I'm always reminded of the story where the woman, it's the woman but at the well,
Oh yeah.
asked Jesus, No, why some people say your temple is in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Why some people say it's on a hill?
Yeah.
But then Jesus said, like, it's neither of those. And so I just feel, and I also believe that we can meet God anywhere. And especially for me, it's during a lot of action. The sense is less when I sit still. And just do reflection. It's not like it's none at all, but it's less. I'm the feeling stronger when it is in action or post action after you finish a large project or you've done something that you wouldn't have done by yourself. So maybe forgiving someone,
Right.
like being able to come up to a person and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And yeah.
I think that's also why I said anywhere. But I think I also add is that it's wherever we initiate it. I feel. I think there's a we say relationship is two ways, not one way, right?
Yeah.
So I feel we need to set that time aside to be like, hey, take initiative to reach out to God, and I'm sure He'll definitely respond. I guess it's kind of the same thing as what you say by action. I have it anywhere, whether in transit or listening to someone preach. I'm always like keeping my ears open, like in case God says like, hey, if you heard that applies to you, you better do something about it.
Yeah. Like I feel like, so recently I've been reading this book called Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. And so he's talking about like what it looks like to be apprentice of Jesus. Like, yes, one is to become like him, but you also have to be with him first in order to become like him. So he's talking about like, the meeting place with Jesus. And so for him, it's waking up early in the morning, having that cup of coffee, and then just finding that space. And he would pray through a psalm, not just read, but pray through a psalm. So it's a very calm and collected. I mean, the way he speaks as well is very calm. Take a pause, very zen. And so yes, the answer obviously also is everywhere. I mean, anywhere you can meet God anywhere. But I think also for me, sometimes it's like in that calmness, like within my room as well, where I'm just like intentionally like, speaking to God and setting aside everything, like putting putting my phone on airplane mode and then just like putting everything aside. So no reception. And
Got it.
Yeah. And so no one can be like, suddenly I have the urge to like look at my phone, like, all right, this person texted, let me answer. Okay, God, yes, back to you. Yeah. So I think that's a meaning space for me as well. It's like where there's absolutely no interaction from anyone else but me and just God. And even sometimes like listening to worship music can be a distraction too, because then I find myself singing along as opposed to really like tuning into what God is saying. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but sometimes like for me also doing automatic activities is where I also hear from God as well. So like, again, I was reading the books, like sometimes one of the best places to hear from God is the shower, because you can't do anything. You can't be on your phone. Maybe you can listen to music if you have a waterproof speaker, but that's really like the only space where no one's gonna bother you unless you have children be like, mommy, daddy, anyways. So now one thing that was also talked about is that Jesus was the intersection where heaven and earth met, right? So basically through him, like now, like he talks a lot about the kingdom of heaven is here. So let's talk about it. If the kingdom of heaven is here, where is it on earth?
I feel the cheesy answer is to do where two or more are gathered in his name.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that is not cheesy, that is the word.
I mean, that, and I feel that we are also vessels of his presence and spirit. So it's where we are.
Correct.
Yes.
Extra brownie points for you for heaven. Not just kidding. We don't strive. As you mentioned, where 2 to 3 gather, where we gather, we create access points between heaven and earth. Is basically the people of God, because we're also the temple of God as well. And so we talked about the temple being the dwelling place of his spirit. Then, ta-da! Yes. So then, again, now we talk about if the kingdom of heaven is here, then how can we identify and participate in its manifestations around us? What does it mean for us to create access points? Because if we're an access point now, so what does it like for us to create access points between heaven and earth?
I heard this metaphor that was really good. There was a guy talking about he had these two dogs, and they would sit on the porch and they would like chase the squirrel when it comes by. But then it comes to a point where one of the dogs gets older, so their vision is really bad, so they can't see the squirrels anymore. But what the owner of the two dogs noticed is that the younger dog would look out for the squirrels, but the older dog actually stopped looking for the squirrels and was focusing on the younger dog. And that when the younger dog sprints for the squirrels, the older dog chases with the younger dog. And the way this speaker was using this analogy is that, like, sometimes I cannot see God, but if I can see you see God, then I can chase after God with you. And I think that's really applicable nowadays, that, sometimes actions are louder than words. When we pursue God, it helps other people like jump on a healthy bandwagon.
Yeah, not those other bandwagons. But yeah,
that you kind of like, I guess it boils down to the whole be the light of the world. That when you chase after God, people, that's basically kind of like what a worship leader is like, right? They're supposed to help bring the atmosphere, raise the atmosphere of God's presence in the place during worship.
Yeah, I'm also reminded of Freddie Bowie's sermon last week, that yes, the people got healed, but then after he got healed, he wanted to follow Jesus, but Jesus tell him to spread the word, and he actually become the missionary of 10 towns. And so I think when you do good works and tell other people about kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, then like people will start to know, and you become the access point.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think sometimes we forget that we're an access point for like the overlap heaven and earth, right? Because we carry the presence of God within us as well. So I think like talking about engaging in community, watching people how they serve God, kind of also like inspire people as well. Because I know like how the way you live your life actually says a lot. And I think that's something that I've learned over the years is people remember the things that you do, even though you don't remember. So it's like, really? I did that? Really? I gave you the prophetic word? Oh.
All the things you don't do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this girl, Devin, So I think it's, basically I'm on board. Everything that you guys said, that's, how we can create access points for people. Like, Jesus talked about reconciliation. How can, if we're practicing forgiveness, if we're, being ministers of reconciliation, access point right there. When we recognize God's presence in his creation, access point right there. When we serve others, access point right there. So I think right now the beauty is that the access point isn't just in one singular place, like, in the Garden of Eden, in a temple, right? But it can be anywhere. So I think that's something for us to keep in mind as we, as we talk about as we wrap up this series, and every series we say, let heaven come, his will be done, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind. It's like, hey, where are we bringing heaven? Like, I shouldn't just stop at this. And I think I'll just end this episode saying that we encounter God so that we can be an encounter to the people around us. So yeah, let's keep doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.